right? So that was a good deal. And I'm like, I'm proud of him, happy for him. Like, man, that's nice. And at that point, he quit it. Like he quit. Like I'm done with my job. I'm done with everything else. I'm 100% real estate. You can't tell me anything.
Yep.
And I'm happy for him. And that reflected back on myself. I was like, if I close $100,000 deal, would I like quit my career and et cetera? And for me, the answer was no. It's like, I'm probably not going to quit because you got to remember at this time, I'm doing everything myself. That's the first part about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm still like learning a lot of inconsistencies. I already make $100,000. Yes, you made a lot of money, but all right, what about your insurance? What about, all these different things? And then, I got to go, if I want to take a vacation, the money stopped coming in.
Yep.
Like it was just, for me, it was like, man. So I started asking myself what that number. I was like, is it $500,000? Is it $1 million? Like I didn't know what that number looked like. And that's because I had this large gap. So this is kind of where I transitioned from my first mentor. Like everything he taught me, I took that with me. And like he taught me how to be a good investor.
You're listening to the We.L.E.R.E Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We.L.E.R.E Real Estate Show.
Hello, We.L.E.R.E Real Estate family. Welcome to another show. I'm excited about our guest on today. Our guest hails from Detroit, Michigan. He's neighbors of mine. I'm from Chicago. He's from Detroit. There's normally some sort of battle between Chicago and Detroit. Normally it's who can step the best, who has the best music, things like that. So I wanted to have Philip Blake on today to rep the east side of Detroit. So just so you guys know, Philip Blake, he's doing amazing things in the Midwest. He's closing over 100 transactions a year. Yes, I said that, 100 transactions a year in Detroit Metro. So for all of you people that are out there saying my market is saturated, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, Philip is here to prove all of those myths and ideologies wrong. So Philip is an engineer, a graduate engineer, turned real estate investor that's doing some major things. So we're going to we're going to talk about real estate wholesaling on today. We're going to talk about rentals. And now he's making a pivot into the commercial space. So Philip, man, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing well, man. Glad to be on. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Great, Philip. So tell me, man, you hail from Detroit. I know Detroit, the Motor City, the music city, capital of the world, and everything like that, but it's really not known for its real estate. So why did you pivot from being an engineer over to real estate?
Oh man, that's an excellent question. I think if I go back to when I was maybe 11, 12 years old, I always knew I didn't want to be like, I didn't know it would be real estate, but I didn't envision myself sitting behind a desk for like my entire life for 30 years. So I knew it. I just didn't, grow up in Detroit. I didn't have a lot of great examples in the entrepreneur space. So I just didn't know what existed in that realm. But I knew subconsciously, I believe, that that's not something that I want to do, is like spend my life behind a desk and doing something mediocre. What got me into real estate, actually a buddy of mine, engineering buddy, he's actually an engineer attorney and also in real estate. But we worked together and he was like, hey man, I'm reading this book. And at this point, I had already read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a pretty popular one. But this wasn't a very popular book. I think it was about taxes or 1031 exchanges. And he was like, man, I'm reading this book, and it really started to light that fire, right? Where you could see, like, man, people making a lot of money, like very quick, not even just very quickly, but they have not only making money, but they have wealth, and it's coming from real estate. So you do some Googling, you look around and you see, oh wow, the most millionaires come from real estate, or it's produced in real estate, and you start to see those things. So me naturally having that mindset, I'm like, okay, man, if someone kind of teases me or gives me a possible solution to a problem that I at that point don't think I knew I had, that makes me wonder, right? That makes me say, okay, well, let me dig deeper into that.
Yep.
And as I started to dig deeper, I started to learn a lot more. I'm like, man, this is where it's at. So to answer your question, man, that's how I got into real estate. A buddy of mine kind of turned me onto it, read some books, and then the more I read, the more I wanted to read. And it didn't take me long. I mean, maybe it was 6 months of just me kind of learning about it. And then finally took the plunge and started getting into it heavy.
Okay. So being a kid from the east side of Detroit, not the best neighborhood, it's not the greatest place. So what gave you that mindset to say, you know what, I'm not going to do what everybody else I see in the hood doing. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to transition at an early age, because you could have fell into that trap, of, let me get out here, let me hustle, let me try and make some money and take care of the family, so on and so forth.
Man, that's an excellent question. I would say one, I think it also comes naturally. Maybe it's in my DNA, a blessing from God, or however you want to put it. But I think naturally I gravitated towards the more positive end of the spectrum, because I still got people now that's still in that life.
Yep.
But try not to say too much.
Okay, gotcha. I know, man. Confidentiality when you're dealing with those in the hood, man. No, I get it, man. Because we all hail from those parts, man, and it's good to not only look at where you are, but also look back and say, hey, man, look, you can do something different. This is what I'm doing. And you become an inspiration, to those who are, back in those neighborhoods and everything like that. So tell me, you read this book, you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, then you read this other book, about 1031 tax exchanges and things like that. So what made you take that plunge? So how did you get that first deal? Because a lot of people, that's one of the problems that they have. They say, you know what, I'm reading all of these books, I'm doing all of this studying, but what do I actually need to do to try and get this first deal under contract?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So what do I need to do to get a deal under contract? Well, first you got to take action. I do want to go back. You asked
Sure.
a minute ago, growing up, like, again, I think it came naturally, because I saw a lot of guys that was like, I don't know, it was just like I didn't see any purpose in it. I remember specifically one time we were all just walking down the street, and these guys, we young too, man. These guys smoking weed or whatever, and we just walking, and I'm not kind of look up to them. We're just walking, and I'm like, I'm walking like more quickly than them. Like when I walk or when I do something, I'll do it with a purpose. Like, all right, we're going from A to B, and they just lollygagging and they not really doing anything. And I remember that was the first time I consciously looked. I was like, oh, y'all not walking because like y'all don't have any place to go.
Yeah,
like
y'all ain't know nothing.
Right. It's like, so it was interesting to me at that. But I saw a lot of that, and just I definitely naturally gravitated away from that, because it didn't make sense. Like I saw a lot of people that was selling weed, and majority of them didn't make a ton of money. And then you look at the headaches and things that come with it. Like, man, you damn near do better just doing it the right way, man.
Right.
So I had some examples where I looked at people, and I think Henry Ford said this. I could be misquoting, but he said, you try to learn something from everybody you meet, even if you learn what not to do. And I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. And it was like, man, I had no interest in it really. Obviously you have little mishaps or what have you, but it was never anything major that attracted me, because I'm like, you guys it's not gonna get to the lifestyle that I want.
Yep.
Next,
go ahead. Real quick, one of the key things that you said, man, and this, and I really didn't notice that I was doing this when I was younger also. I mean, I tried it. I tried the streets, I even told on bigger pockets. I was one of the worst drug dealers there were. I tried it, and it just wasn't for me, because I saw what the fruit of it was gonna be. Yeah, you can make some short-term money, but at the end of the road, it's either prison or dead. So going back to what hustling backwards. So going back to that, one of the key things, guys, that you have to have, what Philip said was, you have to understand your purpose, and you have to do things with a purpose and a passion behind it. You can't get out here lollygag and say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. Either you're going to do it or you're not. And this is one of the things that I see with a lot of successful real estate investors, is you have to have that purpose and that mindset to do it and get out there and do it. So Phil, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Tell us,
no, that's fine.
Tell us about this deal, man. How should people go about finding that first deal?
Well, I would say first thing, you got to set the proper expectations. So if obviously if somebody's watching this podcast, they're on the right frequency. But depending on your personality, some people more action oriented, some people more practical, like myself, and you can suffer from analysis paralysis, where all right, I'm trying to learn everything in a book before I do anything because I want to do it exactly right. Which is you're chasing a fairy tale because even if you did learn everything, you're still gonna get into it and make a ton of mistakes. So definitely just keep that top of mind. Like, all right, like, I got to jump into it. If you haven't gotten into it already, if you're taking action, you're probably ahead of probably 90, at least 85% of people already. As far as how to get that deal, the very first thing that I did, and again, I didn't know this principle until later, but after I read so many books, I'm like, okay, I know I want to do real estate. So I knew that decision was made.
Yep.
But I know enough from these books to where I'm like, and me being more practical, actually, it's funny that the guy I told you I started with, he did the exact opposite of me. So he actually read different books, and he went directly into burden with it. I'm going to buy something at an auction. I'm gonna fix it up, rent it out, and that's what I'm going to do. And he did that just off the books, and that's what he was doing, right? So
Okay.
so that's what he did. Me, more practical. I was like, okay, I know enough about real estate to know that I want to do it, but I don't know enough to, like, if I got in the middle of something, like I'm gonna probably screw something up and I'm gonna cost myself, right? I'd rather put money into learning, right? And that's where this mentorship piece comes in. So I got my first mentor, and funny, actually, at the time, and I followed him for a while. It was a few different ones I was following, and I gravitated towards one more so than others. And the very first purchase I made, I think I paid him, it was $1,000 for like a course. It came with zero coaching. And after
Okay.
about a week of just learning more and more, I was like, okay, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, right? So
Yep.
I was like, oh man, I don't know shit. So I actually paid him $3,000 to mentor me. And just to put that in perspective, like 3,000, it's peanuts now, but at that time, like number one, I was doing it. Only way I knew this person was to be online. So I was skeptical about buying something that large online.
Mm.
This is about 6 or 7 years ago now. So what I did was, so the first thing I did was I put it on my credit card, and my credit card limit was only $1,500 at that time, right?
Okay.
And which was, I didn't really, it was enough for me. I didn't see any reason to get any more.
Right.
But since his course was 3,000, I literally had to call them like, hey, I'm going to make 2 payments. I maxed my credit card out, paid it down, and I maxed it out again just so I could have like the safety from, credit card, get my money back or whatever. So mentally, I still wasn't all the way there. I was still, super skeptical about a lot of different things. But that definitely was one of the biggest things that helped me, because they guide you, right? You have a mentor. Like it's no longer, all right, I got all this random knowledge in my mind, and oh, I need to do this, and oh, I forgot about that. Like I had no, you wouldn't have no framework. He gave me
Yep.
a framework. This is what you do. I learned a lot about investing, how to do a lot of different types of deals, creative, subject to, and all that good stuff. Wholesale, of course, and I learned a lot about all that from him. And yeah, that's what really was the difference maker. And it still actually took me a long time to start making some money, really.
So let's talk about that briefly. And guys, this is not scripted. This is just a conversation between me and Philip, and you
Right.
guys are happen to be listening in on this. Let's talk about that whole mentorship piece, because I know in the beginning I was one of the skeptics. I was like, I can just go on YouTube, I can figure it all out. But like you said, you get a piece here, a piece there, piece here, piece there, and you're trying to pull it all together, and your mind just start, circulating all of this information. So what is that mindset that you have to have in order to take action to get that mentor? Because you hear a lot of people out there say, what, the information is free. You can just go out there and get it and put it together. So what's the benefit of, spending that $3,000 to get that mentors? Let's just make it perfectly clear for everyone.
Oh, awesome. Number one, you got to value. You got to, like, I mean, I'm just gonna keep it straight. Where I come from, man, we value the wrong things, man. We consumers, we buying clothes, and just
Yep.
shit that depreciate, things like that. And I try to keep it PG. But my bad. But we buying garbage, man. We buying things that's not valuable. And I had to learn that. And at the time, I should learn, like, you value the knowledge. So the question is, why would somebody spend that if all the money is, if all the knowledge is free? You go to YouTube University. Number one, you're gonna save yourself a lot of time, man. The randomness, it's gonna cost you more. Number one, but the key, the thing that you're paying for is the trust and the framework, right?
Yep.
You're having somebody that come in and say, look, man, I've done this 15, 20 years. This is what to do. Don't think, just do what I tell you. Don't worry about it. Just do what I tell you. If you got a question, ask me. But other than that, Just do what I tell you. You know what I mean? And when you have that, all of a sudden, and then people kind of have a tendency to want to follow. Some of us, not, maybe more alpha than others, but generally speaking, even alphas, I mean, you gotta follow before you can lead anyway, right?
That's
So,
true.
But you have somebody that is guiding you, like, hey man, I'm proven, whether you believe it or not. Obviously, that's what the biggest decision is finding somebody that you can trust. But then they come to you and say, look, I've done it. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm giving you the blueprint. It's up to you to go do it. And at that point, and that still doesn't guarantee success. You just gave yourself a what do you call a shortcut, or in my opinion, that's just a smart thing to do. You want to learn how to do something. It's I don't know if it's a saying or analogy. So if you want to know the path ahead, you have someone coming back, right?
That's
True.
true.
100%, man. So people so that's in anything. You want to be a basketball player, NFL player, you want to be a singer, you want to be an actor, you want to be an engineer, you want to be a scientist, whatever. That's the best way to do that. And it'll definitely expedite your success for sure. It's going to be simpler, but it's not necessarily going to be easy. That's what I think a lot of people, and I talked about having the right expectations. People think, oh yeah, I paid 25 grand for this. Teach me. It's all on you now. Just come in and it's your responsibility. I got a buddy of mine I grew up with. He definitely gravitated towards the hood, and I've been telling him for years, man, literally trying to put him on. And he's starting to come around now. So I told him, like, okay, you want me to mentor you? All right, sweet, man. Give me 15 grand and then, I'll mentor you for a year. And to be honest, I really don't want to do it because that's like, you start valuing your time and things more. Yep. But the point is, it's the guidance, right? You're not going to waste as much time. You're going to be able to just go straight to what you know works and deal with it from there. Because otherwise, like I said, you're going to be having random actions. And one thing I actually alluded to earlier, it still took me a long time to actually make money. And just to kind of give you guys, you talked about the mindset. So here's my life at the time when I started real estate, right? I'm finishing school. I'm already getting paid as an engineer because I quote unquote did so well. So I'm making like 80, 90 grand a year, probably like 20, I forget how old I am, maybe 20 something, young 20s. And most people, especially my family, oh, you making that? You basically made it, right?
Yeah, you done, dude.
Chill out. You on your way, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm finishing school. I'm making a bunch of money. I'm still living at home. I'm living in my mom's basement. So at this point, mentally, I'm thinking I'm doing everything right. I'm like, hey, I got my costs cut down. All right, I'm about to make these sacrifices. That's a big thing as far as the mindset. So I'm like, I make sacrifice because the biggest driver that got me into real estate, just going back to what you talked about earlier, I knew me making 90K a year, and even I thought about it, right? Okay, maybe in 20 years I'll become VP or something. They give me $1 million in the stocks option. It was like, at the end of the day, that's really not going to change the direction of my family. Like, I'm not just in this for myself. This is for, I tell people all the time, man, we down 400 years, man. I'm just going to put it like it is. Like, it's a 400-year cap. And I know that I can't make that up for myself. This is why I try to get back and help people, etc. But yeah, it's a huge gap to overcome. And I know that me working in the job, having somebody tell me what to do or etc., that wasn't going to do it. And real estate was my avenue that I want to get into. I made those sacrifices. Like, okay, I'm making money. I can go buy a car. And at the time, my car was like 12, 13 years old. It's maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. So I'm making more money than most people. That's grown. Living in my mom's basement. I'm riding an old car that's, it was straight. It wasn't beat up. It's a Monte Carlo.
Okay.
So I'm making, and all my extra money, I'm putting into like either learning and investing in real estate, right? And I was making a bunch of dumb mistakes. I thought I was doing the best I could. And even with the mentorship, I was still making mistakes. To put it simply, and it's nothing against my mentor. He was actually, like I said, he basically told me everything I know about real estate as far as like how to invest. And even at that point, I want to say it was like 18 months, 22 months before I made money. Before I'm investing, I'm doing the marketing, I'm calling people. This is what my day looked like because I'm still finishing school, right? So I get up probably 5:30 in the morning, go to work, get off work, I would go to class, and then after class, I'm hitting the phones, I'm calling people, I'm doing marketing, I'm trying to plan on stuff. So I'm grind mode all the way. It's to the point where when it's time to go to sleep, like I still love sleep to this day, probably because of that. But when I hit the pillow, like I used to be out cold. I was done. And I didn't even think nothing of it. I thought it was like, I'm just doing what I got to do type of thing.
Yep.
And yeah, man, it was definitely grind mode for me at that time. And like the mentorship was a big piece of it. And like I said, so I talk about mentorship, talk about sacrifice. You definitely got to have perseverance, man. Because you got to think, man, 18 months, most people, I did it for 2 weeks. I did it for 30 days. I ain't making no money, blah. When I was grinding too, man.
Yep.
And to be totally honest, towards the end, like I'm not a quitter. Like I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make it happen. This is part of my personality. But towards the end, like I'm really big into health, right? Health advocate. So actually I was doing some coaching at that point, and I started to feel myself, just me looking back on it, kind of, shift more energy into the health because I wasn't making any money in real estate.
Right.
I'm putting and it got to a point after that time, I'm looking like, I'm making all this money. I really got no expenses, and I ain't got nothing to show for it. I was like, man, it got to a point. I was like, I'm probably screwing up. And the way that ended it, to answer your question, get to my first deal, I remember one of the lead service providers that we used, I had like $400 or $500 in it. And I just knew at that time, I was like, man, I'm probably not gonna put any more money back into that just because I wasn't, getting any returns.
Right.
And it wasn't the service because we still use them to this day. I was just marketing incorrectly, right? I was very inconsistent and things like that. And then you got to talk to people close the deal. So I was the one screwing it up. I take 100% ownership for that, man. And I think it's like maybe our last dollars. A lead came in, and at this point, I was almost so defeated. It was a good deal, but I was waiting for something bad to happen. Like when I tell you, I was like, so somebody called, he said, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell my house. Blah, blah, take him through the usual script because I knew it like the back of my hand. I'm like, all right, how much you want for the house? Oh man, 50,000. And I'm looking it up. I was like, I know this area. That's a pretty good amount.
Good number.
That's what he's asking. So I'm like, okay, let's meet. All right, maybe he's gonna BS me, not meet. All right, I met the guy. Okay, I met the guy. And I even got the property in the contract. Because during the 18 months, I was getting properties in the contract. I just wasn't closing. I was like, dude, what the hell? And I met him, got the property in the contract. Like, okay, well, now we're going to go through our process. And at the time, we were wholesaling properties on MLS. And I'm waiting for the next thing to happen. I'm going to put it on the market. The seller's going to get pissed or something or whatever. It ain't going to be worth as much as I thought. I got it locked up for 50, and I put it out at 59 just to kind of, that was what I was taught, right? You put it in low so that way you can, you get a bunch of offers or whatever. So I did that. And I remember the flat fee listing agent, he called me like 30 minutes after I listed it. He said, man, what's going on? Our phones are blowing up. Like everybody's calling. Like I'm talking. And I remember I was so happy for that. I was like, really? He's like, man, he said, this one guy won't stop ringing the phone. He said, so he's threatening the realtor that listed it. Man, get me this guy's number right now. I want this deal now. What's his number? And I know how to play it cool at this point, even though I'm shaking in my boots because I'm broke, man. Like I'm not broke, but I still have money coming in, but I'm down. I invest a lot of money. So I'm still playing it cool because my mentor taught me, it's like, man, don't be a dog in heat, And so I'm like, all right, I'm like, oh, well, if he's interested, let him know, submit his highest and best offer. And we'll, I'm playing it cool, but deep down, I'm super happy. Phone's blowing up. And then we sold that property for like $30,000 over asking, man. So I made maybe it was like $45,000, $50,000 on that first deal. And then at that point, like now all of a sudden it's possible, right? My paradigm has been lifted or my ceiling's been lifted. Now it's possible. And I remember I was telling somebody about it afterwards. You would have thought I was the best investor ever, man. I'm like, I legit just closed my first deal. I made a bunch of money, but I was just like, man, I was like, man, yeah, I did this and I'm doing like that, man. This is easy, that type of stuff. But yeah, I'm so grateful for that, man. Because when I say I was like done, mentally I was not telling myself I was done because I would never tell myself like, oh, I'm about to quit. But
yeah, your actions were saying it.
Yeah, I'm looking back at what I was like, man, I was probably about to be done. And I closed that deal.
So let me ask you this, Philip, because this is not something that everybody go through, because like you said, you was investing for 18 months and trying to make this happen, and you didn't quit. And like you said, you talk to people nowadays, they say, you know what, I sent out direct mail or I made, 200 phone calls. I didn't get a deal. This don't work. I'm stopping. So let me ask you this. You was putting this money into, so direct mail, That was your marketing strategy at the time?
Oh, excellent question. So at that point, I did some very minor direct mail. The first deal that I got, it was from, we call it PPL, but it's like essentially it's a PPC lead.
Okay.
And that's how I was leveraging my time, because you got to remember, I'm working full time, going to school full time, so I don't have a lot of time to be like answering calls randomly throughout the day. So the PPC was like, oh, I got some money. Let me spend some money on marketing. I get the highest motivated type leads coming in. And like I said, we still use them to the day, and we still get our best ROI from them. But we get the lead coming in, and it's not a whole lot of leads. I can handle it, and I call them, and it just worked out for me at that time.
Okay.
Looking back, I probably should have did direct mail.
Okay. So for those guys, because one of the questions that you always have is, you know what, I'm working full time. I don't have a lot of time to invest into this. Philip went through that same situation, but what he did was he used PPC leads. So he did online marketing, and then he got the highest converting leads to come into his funnel. Were those sellers calling you directly on your cell phone, or were they going into some kind of CRM? How was that set up, Philip?
I had a CRM. It was more of a database, but no, the lead would come in via email. I would call them. I had like a Google Voice number, and that's how I would contact them. And then I would manually go and put them into the CRM/storage database is what I would do there. Yep.
Okay, so you was doing this for 18 months, not closing a deal. So you had said something very key. You had said you was putting deals under contract, but you wasn't closing them. What was happening?
So at the time, like my main dispositions, which is funny, man, I didn't even know what the roles were at the time I think about it. But my main exit strategy for these deals, where I was taught, the mentor was like, man, you don't have to build a buyer's list. Focus on what's your fastest. He always said, focus on your fastest avenue to money. Whatever that next action is that's going to get you to the money, that's how you prioritize. And he was like, man, you don't need the buyer's list. If you got a good deal, buyers going to come to you. In Michigan, you get the deal, you put it on the market the right way, right? And I was doing it incorrectly or inconsistently at times. But you get the property under contract, you put it on the market, you get offers. That's your best buyer's list, which is true. Why weren't we closing some deals? Probably some inexperience on company, right? So I had some deals that didn't get much traction. Pissing the sellers off, so not having like effective communication, explaining to them the process. To give you the mindset, at this time, I still thought wholesale was a naughty word. You know what I mean? So like I thought you weren't a real investor, because I knew about subject to, I knew about how to do the seller finance and all these different strategies, etc. And in my mind, it was a negative persona. Like, oh, you wholesale properties, you only wholesale because you don't have money. You only wholesale because you don't know how to blah, blah, blah. So I was like, that's my mindset. So I acted that way when I talked to sellers. I would, let them know like, yeah, we're investors, we do some of this, we do some of that. And I would try to kind of keep it under my hat as far as wholesaling, putting the market and things like that. As opposed to just, legit being able to explain, hey, here's our process, this is how it works. You know what I mean? Being upfront about how we operate. So that pissed some people off, so that, lost some deals because of that. And then actually the first deal I was supposed to close, it wasn't going to make a whole bunch, maybe like $7,000. But the realtor actually, I don't know, they sued me they stole the deal. They tried to steal the deal is what they did.
Wow.
And they caused a whole bunch of issues. Yeah, the first one. And then at this point, I'm like damn. And right, but she definitely tried to steal the deal. And I remember she called me at one point, like, oh, I need you to stop calling my client the seller, right? It's her client now.
Oh, wow.
I had made, they was doing a whole bunch of stuff, and we had a memorandum of agreement. That deal ended up never closing, as far as my knowledge, unless they got around it somehow.
Okay.
But the point is, it was a host of different reasons. It wasn't that many contracts to begin with, and then the ones we were getting was kind of fumbling, and then just learning, right? You learn about comping. So you talk about how to know what action to take, how to get into the game, etc. Is you start taking action. You can learn all you want from a book, but you're gonna learn through experience a lot faster. I mean, you can learn from someone else's experience, which is the best way. That's mentorship. But then you still got to get your own experience. You got to go out and get some,
Because nothing in the books tell you about, what happens if a realtor try and steal your deal. Nothing is talked about that, So some key things that I just want to kind of go over is because I want to make sure the process is clarified. So you were getting these properties under contract. They were coming in through your PPC, and then you were getting them under contract, and then you was having a realtor to list them on the MLS for you?
So excellent question. So yes is the answer, but we were using flat fee listing agents. So
Okay,
I still use
gotcha.
them to this day. So we didn't have an agent represent us. It was, we pay him $100, $150, and he listed for us. I took all the calls. He didn't do anything. He just basically got paid to put it on the MLS.
To put it on the MLS. Okay, all right, that's
Yep.
different. Haven't heard that strategy. See, we all learned something new. I've been doing this for over 8 years, and that was my first time hearing that. It's almost like wholesaling, but without taking the property down. You still putting it on the MLS. Okay,
100%.
and then you
And to do
said,
that,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, to do that, just so people don't get confused, you can't, like, we have, number one, that was in our contract, so we allow us to do it. And then even depending on your region and all that stuff, some MLSs don't allow it, but they allow it in Michigan, where we just have to put we have to put
like a disclaimer?
Disclaimer to say this is, we got equitable interest in the property. And,
Okay.
That's what we're actually, so we're not marketing the house, right? We're marketing our equitable interest in the house based on this agreement. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Gotcha. Okay. So like you said, the realtor stole a deal. You did put in a memorandum on the property. Kind of tell us what a memorandum is for those who don't know.
Oh, excellent question. So basically it's to protect, so my mentor, he wouldn't work with me on a deal. He wouldn't JV me on a deal unless I had this memorandum in place. And basically what it is you got the contract. So that gives you the interest in the property. You go file a memorandum of agreement or a claim of interest that says, hey, I or this entity has a interest in this property based on this purchase agreement. And you file that. So what happens is that's a cloud or a lien, if you will, on title. So if that seller gets, it's a lot of, dirty tricksters out here, or something, not even just dirty tricksters. You may call and negotiate a good deal. They say I want 20 grand for it, and somebody else call them next day, I'll give you 30. All right, and all of a sudden they don't really want to work with you, know what I mean? So you tempted people with money. Well, the point is, if they try to go sell that property the right way, like via a warranty deed, then that's going to show up. Say, oh no, we can't close because this other person has an interest in the property. And that still have, I still get calls to this day, people asking, what's going on with this deal. And depending on the situation, we either send them a payoff, or we release it if it was just something like we didn't close on it, it was our fault. So
absolutely.
But that's what a memo is. Yep.
So guys, if you want to know more information about the memorandum, or if you need a copy of a memorandum, just look in the show notes. I'll make sure I have one down there for you guys because we use them. Also, I just missed out on a deal where we had a memorandum, and it was my fault. We had a memorandum on a property, and it was like 3 years ago. And we received some paperwork from that seller's attorney, and I was just slow on opening up that mail, looking at that paperwork. And by the time I looked at it, the deadline passed. So the courts was able to release that memorandum. So I lost, I think it was like $14,000 on that deal. So lesson learned for me. Like I said, guys, it's always lessons out here that you learn, when you're out here in the business doing deals. So you got, Philip, you got this first deal. You made the $45,000 to $50,000 off of that deal. What was next after that, man? Because you said now you got the proof of concept. Your mind is open. You're like, hey, this stuff do work.
Mm-hmm. So what was next? So again, the big thing was the mentor, because my mentor actually told me that. He said a lot of people know it, that they don't even know it sometimes, but he got a bad relationship with money. That means it's like you either subconsciously or somewhere in the ether, the universe, you block, you may say, yes, I want money, I want to make money, etc. But maybe because the way you were raised, the different principles and things you were taught, you actually do things that avoid money, right?
Yep.
And exactly. So when I was doing that for that whole time, and finally, I don't know, overcome it or just the power of perseverance, got the deal. So now it's like, okay, this works. My paradigm is open. And this is exactly what my mentor said. Once you close that first one, he's like, man, the floodgates going to open, and you're going to start closing deals. And that's exactly what happened, because I knew it worked, right? That's literally the only thing that changed, because I knew that I could work. So that first year, because I made 50, I think we did like $250,000 that year. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was like, and then we had some big deals. Like I still didn't do a lot of volume. Maybe it was like 15 deals or something like that, but they were big deals that we were closing. And again, it was really nothing changed. I was just being more consistent. Now I had some money to spend, so I'm investing back into the company. That was a big thing, and to be able to do more. At this point, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the paradigm shifts that you were saying with the mental mindset about money is, in the beginning, guys, when you first start, you're looking at, man, I'm spending this money on marketing. I'm spending all of this money on marketing. Once you close that first deal, then you're happy to spend that money on marketing because spending that money on marketing is going to bring in more deals. So that was one of the mindset shifts that I had to get over. It was like, man, I don't want to spend this $5,000. I don't want to spend this $3,000. This is all I have, but after I started doing it more, I'm like, okay, how much is the marketing? Boom, let's get it out there. Can we double it? Yeah, let's double it because we know that's how the deal flow is going to happen. So that's one of those relationships with money I wanted to touch on real quick, Philip. But go ahead, man. What were you saying?
I mean, that's an awesome thing, man. That's the type of ATM machine you want to build, right? The one that you put in $1 and you get out 4 or 5.
Yep.
But no, I wasn't really saying much. I was just saying that, investing back into the company and, or at least in my own efforts back into the marketing so that we can continue to percolate, right? So we can continue to get more deals and be able to say, all right, I got, I'm playing with house money at this point. And there was still a lot of learners at that point, still making some mistakes, still pissing some people off. I mean, even at this time, I still thought wholesaling was a naughty word. You know what I mean? That's something that you were proud of or whatever. So.
And people still have that thought, that wholesaling that's the dirty word, or that's the dirty niche in real estate is wholesaling. But like you said, you have to be transparent with those sellers and let them know, hey, this is the process. Don't try and do something underhanded and sneaky and don't let them know, what's going on. You just be transparent with them. That way, if they have any red flags or anything like that, they can come to you and talk to you about it without you trying to, this is my contractor / buyer / this and that. It's just doing stuff the right way. And Philip, it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing, is doing it the right way. So in Detroit, man, you're right now, you're closing 100 deals a year. Most people will say, well, how are you doing that in one market? You need to go to 3 or 4 different markets in order to do that. So how are you closing all of these transactions just in Metro Detroit? How is your team built out, for someone that's looking to scale after they get through the onesie twosies and they say, all right, you know what? I have this money. I have this $250,000 that I made from me doing it by myself. I want to reinvest and really go mainstream. How is that possible?
So I'll tell you the story behind that. So, and this is leading from what we talked about, kind of taking you through the trail. So we closed the first deal, made a bunch of money. And then I don't know if it was a year later or so, I started to ask myself, because another mentee, he closed the deal, made like 90 grand or 95,000. Like that was his net.
Wow.
And right, so that was a good deal. And I'm like, I'm proud of him, happy for him. Like, man, that's nice. And at that point, he quit. Like, I'm done with my job. I'm done with everything else. I'm 100% real estate. You can't tell me anything.
Yep.
And I'm happy for him. And that reflected back on myself. I was like, if I close a $100,000 deal, would I like quit my career and et cetera? And for me, the answer was no. It's like, I'm probably not going to quit, because you got to remember at this time, I'm doing everything myself. That's the first part about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm still like learning a lot of inconsistencies. I already make 100 grand. Yes, you made a lot of money, but all right, what about your insurance? What about, all these different things? And then, I got to go, if I want to take a vacation, the money stopped coming in.
Yep.
Like it was just, for me, it was like, man. So I started asking myself what that number. I was like, is it $500,000? It's like, is it $1 million? Like I didn't know what that number looked like. And that's because I had this large gap. So this was kind of where I transitioned from my first mentor. Like everything he taught me, I took that with me. And like he taught me how to be a good investor, right? So that's me being a good investor. So I know I do a lot of different things, but it's always me. I think that most he talked about was getting an assistant to do a few different things. Well, I actually got on a podcast similar to this, just starting to, what's smart me to do is like, I need to get around more like-minded people that are on this frequency. I'm sure there's things out there that I don't know. And I just started searching through podcasts, listening, and I found one. And that episode he was talking about, he's like, man, you got to build a business, man. People out here ones and twos. This guy, he was flipping like 100 houses a year. He's like, man, I don't even know what's going on in my business. Like, to tell you the truth, you could drive by a house and it could be mine. I wouldn't even know it. You know what I mean? I go see contractors. If I went to go see them, they wouldn't know who the hell I am. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and he was like, man, so I was like, maybe I spend an hour, 2 hours a week. I'm like, damn, man, what is this guy? Like,
right. How's he doing this?
I'm like, man, so you don't even know what's going on. Like, how are you doing? And he said, you got to build a business. This is not, you got to have KPIs. You got to know, like, you got to treat this like a real business. This is not just you out here just doing things.
Yep.
And that was the key for me. That's the spark that thought. I was like, oh, aha, I don't actually have to make $1 million a year to say, okay, now I'm ready to go full time or whatever. For me, it was about the consistency and the predictability. You know what I mean? So when you build a team, okay, you got KPIs based on your marketing, so you know what those numbers look like, right? And so you know 3 months down the line, if I spend for every dollar I spend, I'm gonna make 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever that is, and you know where those deals are coming from. So you build that, and then you got VAs and you got employees and you got contractors and things that work for you that you pay, that you're gonna take over acquisitions. And actually at this point, I didn't even know that, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't even know the name of the roles. Didn't know what acquisitions was, didn't know what dispo was, didn't know what, like when I logged, I was like, transaction coordinator. I was like, what's the name for this?
Right.
I literally had no clue. You know what I mean? I didn't know. And even though I had basically did all those roles, so now you start to delegate out, right? So now things are starting to percolate on their own. And then now it's to a point where, because what happens is when I'm doing everything myself, it's a bottle cap based on my emotion or how I'm feeling. So I do some marketing, I get some calls or I make some calls, and all right, I'm calling people. But then if I start feeling stressed out or if I feel like I'm doing too much, guess what? I don't want to go spend another $10,000 or $5,000 on marketing, because that means more calls and that means more stuff I got to do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, so it starts to impact you that way. But once you look at it and say, oh, so you mean I can start doing more marketing, and that's just me, more deals coming in, and had nothing to do with me because I got somebody else doing it. That's their responsibility. All right, turn up the marketing. I don't care at this point. Let's do as much as we can. Let's find the next bottleneck. And that's how we grew, just via bottlenecks, acquisitions, person first. All right, somebody doing transactions to make sure I don't have to talk to these sellers anymore. And then, dispo, somebody selling deals. So we just continue to grow. And once you have a team behind you, I mean, all of the greats talk about, you talk about Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Napoleon Hill, JP Morgan Chase. Like a lot of the people, and even now today, right, you got Elon, like nobody really just does it by themselves, right? Like, I build this by myself, because even if you did, you probably down there kill yourself, and if you didn't kill yourself, you'd be miserable. You know what I mean?
You got it.
So now you want to bring on these other people, and you want them to grow with you. Like, yes, man, I want to pay you 6 figures a year, man, and I'm happy to pay you 6 figures a year. Yes, I want to pay you $50,000 a year. You know what I mean? So you want to bring other people up with you and have this culture, have this family, extended family, people that work with you, and everybody's playing their role. All you got to do is do your position, and we'll do ours over here, and the team works well.
So how did you jump out there to start finding those team members, and what was that first position that you hired for?
Definitely was a VA, because the first thing you want to do is hire. So the mindset or the rule of thumb is you want to hire all the non-income producing activities, right? Because that actually makes you not want to do the income producing activities. So something as simple as, let's say, marketing. Okay, I know today I need to, let's say it's direct mail. A lot of people do direct mail. All right, let's say I need to send out some direct mail, right? But to do that, I got to buy the list, I got to manage the list, and then I got to, format it right, and then I got to send it out, and then I got to take the call, different calls, different things, people that's just calling me to say, screw you, don't call me no more, stuff like that. When all those different things come into, especially when you're starting out doing yourself, all those things come into you, and it deters you from doing what? Like, all right, man, I got to, I know I need to do more marketing to get more deals coming in, but I'm not going to do it because I don't feel like doing the Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
I don't feel like doing all the other stuff, right? But once you have someone that's doing these non-income producing activities, admin roles or mundane things, all of a sudden you get to focus on your quote unquote superpower, right? So the first hire for me was a virtual assistant to be able to do those things, and even virtual assistant slash lead manager. So to talk to the people before, I only want to talk to the people who were interested in selling the property. and it sounded
Okay.
like it could be potential. So that was the first thing I hired, and that took a ton off my plate.
So
And
did you
then
find this
the plate filled up.
virtual assistant like through Freelancer or Upwork or something like that?
So I think that comes down to like your personality. And if we're talking to people that are starting newer at this point, I actually, funny enough, I wouldn't recommend like using Upwork or something like that. Or they got another online Philippine.ph or online
Yeah.
jobs.ph. So and here's the reason why. It's not that those are bad. Those are excellent sources to find virtual assistants, some with experience, some not experienced, people who are willing to work for you. So it's not a problem. The problem is you have to now manage them. If you hire somebody from online.ph, onlinejobs.ph, now you are responsible for them. You're responsible for training them. You're responsible for making sure that they work on time. You're responsible to make sure they're not, BSing on the job. You're responsible, obviously, make sure they get paid. Like you're responsible for all of
Yep.
that, right? You got to do the 1099s and stuff. So because your responsibility, guess what? You just gave yourself another job,
Another
HR
job.
manager.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You the HR manager or bookkeeper. You know what I'm saying? So now you just gave yourself more work. But the advantage to that, so it's pros and cons to everything. The advantage to that is that it's cheaper. So you can find somebody paying $350, $450 or whatever. Me personally, what I did, there's a lot of different real estate companies out there that they train virtualists. That's all they do is find, hire, filter virtual assistants specifically for real estate and different roles: transaction coordinator, admin, data, all these different things. And they're already trained, number one, right? You got somebody else that's managing, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. All you have to do is cut the check when it's time to cut it. And, all these other things that go into it, you don't necessarily have to worry.
You don't have to deal with it.
Exactly. So I actually recommend, when people ask me, I recommend doing it that way first. And that way you can just focus on having them do, and you still have to, and even at that point, you still have to manage them, right? You're not going to say, hey, go to work, cold call, go to work, it don't work like that. You still going to have to manage them and let them know what works specifically for your business. But a lot of the minutia is going to be cut out if you go that way.
And what company, do you know the company by name, or that way we can share it in the show notes a little bit later, or we can get it off. We can get it off offline, or go ahead. What is it?
So I've used several. The first one was Revas. So that's REVAS.com. So real estate virtual assistant services. They've done well for us. And again, they manage the VAs. They got all types of positions. The other one is, I actually remember the name is SVP. I can send you the name, but it's like it's something virtual professionals, and they do really well as well. I know people are going to ask me, oh, which one you like more? We use them both. They both do well.
Okay, we'll make sure we have this information in the show notes for you guys. That way you can take action and get the resources that you need in order to really get out here and get started. So you went from the onesie twosies to now hiring out your team, getting virtual assistants to do cold calling and things like that for you. What was next, Phil? Because you went from the one coach that was all about I, and then you went to another mentor, I'm assuming, that more was on building the business. How did you start that framework of building the business? I know you hired the virtual assistants, but what were some of those metrics that you was making sure that you monitor to see if your business was going in the right direction?
Okay, excellent question. So the first thing, my second mentor, quote unquote, was really more of a mastermind. So I was surrounded by a lot of people who are crushing it, right? So I'm no longer the big person in the room. I'm the little guy in the room. People doing, $6 million a year, wholesaling and flipping, and 100, doing 100 transactions was easy. A couple of guys were actually in the exact same market that I'm in. They're doing 100 plus, deals, and they're making a lot of money. So I was like no longer. So wait. Stop
for a second, Philip. Stop. So you were in a mastermind. Okay. I'm sure this mastermind costed thousands of dollars if you're in proximity of people that's doing $6 million a year. And then not only that, some of the same people in your market is in this mastermind. What about, all of the people that say, it's the competition. You got somebody in your exact same market that's doing 100 deals a year, and you're trying to build your way up to that. Wouldn't that person not want to share that information with you? And wouldn't you see that person as a competitor?
So excellent question. So first off, what was the mindset before I actually joined and paid the money? Because I actually heard about them before I joined. I was like, man, these guys are already in Detroit. At this point, I'm thinking like this is gonna be my secret weapon type of thing. All these
Yep.
guys are already in the metro market. They doing deals. And my thought process behind it, to be straight, and we're actually really good friends now. But my mindset behind it was like, well, all right, if I don't do it, this is me making a decision to actually join. If I don't do it, they still gonna be doing 100 plus deals a year, and I'm just not gonna, you know what I mean? I'm still gonna be
Yep.
screwed up, right? And
Yep.
if I do join it, if I do join, at least I'm putting myself in the same energy, having access to the same knowledge. And to answer your question, what I've noticed, the higher you go, the more people want to give, right? Because like these guys they were not to a point like, oh man, you in Metro Detroit, oh man, well, all right, let me, I don't want to talk to you about X, Y, Z,
Yep.
whatever. These guys are the most giving guys ever. And he actually even talked about it when we still talk about it. He's like, man, I'm coach, like he would do a talk. They were one of the bigger guys in the group or doing more volume. And they would do a talk to like the rest of the group. And he was talking about the value of having the giving mentality and things like that. He was like, look, man, this guy here, like we're literally in the exact same market, no difference at all. And I'm still giving you guys the nuggets. I'm pulling back the curtains on how my business runs and et cetera. So that's the type of energy we're already around. And it's like, so here's what I say to people. It's like, oh man, competition. And I forget where I heard this from, but I want to say it was in Raleigh or even Charlotte. But I'm gonna use random numbers here because I don't remember the numbers. But it was substantial. They said, okay, it was like 12,000 transactions that happened in that market, cash, and I think they might have all been like some motivation, foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, or something. So this guy went and did the numbers on it. It was like a huge number. Let's call it 12,000, right? 12,000 deals. All right. You don't need to close 12,000 deals in the market, to be successful. Or you do 50, you're doing well. You do 100, you're doing well. You do 500, you're doing awesome, right? So he's like, you put that in perspective. He was saying, like, challenge you. Look at your market. I forget how you say to do it, but look at your market. Look at the cash transactions that are happening at a discount, and count that up. Okay, can you carve out your slice of that, right? Like, you know what I mean? So it's not competition. It's more the abundance mindset. And me and those guys, like I said, we're still buddies today. We still talk from time to time. And we share like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what's working. This is what's, exactly. We collaborate. It's not competition. There's no competition.
Yep.
It's 100% collaboration. And if you go into something with that, I want to take, give me, and I don't want to share mindset, not only will that impact you in your life in general, but you're going to find a lot of people don't really want to be around you because, hell, we all in the United States.
Yep.
I know a guy, he's in all 50 markets. He's in all 50 markets crushing it.
Wow.
So that's, you know what I mean? So it's like the competition is a figment of your imagination. And really, I think it's a figment of your own fear, right?
Yeah.
You worried about that and lack of abundance.
So I bring that up because I'm sure you're talking about Mike Simmons, correct?
Yeah, Mike and Mike. Those my
okay.
guys.
Yep. So Mike was on our podcast. I think it was show 32. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he definitely talked about that abundance mindset. And that's one of the things that guys, you have to have. And Philip just said something very key. He said, the higher you go up, the more people want to give. So as long as you stay at the bottom, you're on the bottom, you're scavenging, things like that. But when you move higher up the totem pole, people start to network and they start to tell you, well, this is something that you need to do, to tweak your business, to make it better. You may need to do this over here. And it's cross collateralization. So you may be able to provide something to them and they'll be able to provide something to you. And both of your businesses start to rise versus one going up and the other one going down. So man, that was really good information right there, Philip. Man, good stuff. So you're doing all of these deals in Michigan. How did you end up transitioning over to North Carolina?
That's an excellent question. So first and foremost, you can still hear me okay, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So first and foremost, after we did so many transactions, you look at the bottom line, and we did well, but we looked at, when you dig deeper, we were looking at the average size of each deal. right? And a lot of people talk about, oh, I want to do 100 transactions, I want to do 500, I want to do 300, which is awesome, right? That's part of it. That's part of the business. But I would much rather close one deal a year and make $2 million, right?
So
$3 million
stop right there. I got to give you an applause for that, because that's one of the things that I've been telling people for the longest. It's not, I'm doing 100 deals a year and each deal I'm only making $1,000 or $1,500. I'd rather go smaller on a number of deals, but more on a net revenue. So I'd rather do 10 deals a year and the average deal size of each deal is $50,000, $40,000 versus going through the headache of doing all of these transactions, and still making the same amount of money, or if not, less money. So, man, I just wanted to give you applause on that, because I talk that, I teach that, and people just are so inflated with the number of deals that they're doing versus the net profit that they're making on each deal. So sorry, man, I had to just jump in there and cut in on that. So
no worries, man.
So what was your average net amount on the deals in Detroit?
Michigan, it was like eight. It was like right around 8,500, maybe 9,000. So it was okay. But then you look at other markets, people are averaging 20 grand, 25. And I'm like, man, if we do go into the market and we do the same amount of deals, because you're taxing the team at that point, right? People do more work to get the same result. So that was a big part of it, going into market. And on top of the fact that like Charlotte and Raleigh, they were hotter markets. So it was easier to sell the deals. Like Metro Detroit, man, Detroit specifically, it's a lot of block by block. It's a lot of, you actually got to know Detroit to come in, and you got to know your spots, et cetera. Where these other people, other markets, and you get these cookie cutter deals where it's like, oh, here's the comps super easy, sold super easy, because the data is there. Whereas Michigan or Detroit specifically was more, you kind of have to kind of finagle. You kind of know what you're doing more, which is fine. But that's a big part of it. And yeah, man, going back to what you were saying as far as like one deal, I mean, it's probably an ego thing, or not one deal, but doing more deals versus less. It's definitely an ego thing. People like to say, I'm doing a bunch of deals and things like that. Like you said, at the end of the day, all that matters is net. I was actually at a workshop. And one guy, I won't say his name, but one guy, he doing like $500,000 a month, like maybe 450,000 a month in revenue, right? Wow. And which is like, he crushing it. And I'm sure if I say his name, most people would know him. But yeah, he's crushing it revenue wise. I don't know how many transactions to add up to, but his net profits, he's an open book. He's not like, a liar or, trying to put on the show. He's like, no, man, our nets is like, man, I want to say it was like maybe they were netting like 100,000, maybe 150 a month, which is awesome, right?
Wow,
but
yeah.
You putting out 450,000 to make 100 grand. Is there a more efficient way? Yes, right. And he knows it, right? He knows that. Whereas, and I forgot what he was spending per month. Damn, I wish I could remember how much he was spending each month to be able to make that. Whereas another party in that same workshop spending like 20, 25 grand a month on like everything, and like definitely was netting substantially more without doing that much volume, substantially more net without doing, they didn't have to do $500,000 exactly, or even having $500,000 in revenue, but the net was there, right, and the consistency. So that's really what it comes down to. As you scale more, you'll see that, at the end of the day, it's about what you can what you taking home.
Okay, so why did you pick Raleigh and Charlotte versus, I mean, you're in Detroit. Why didn't you pick, I don't know, let's just say St. Louis or Kansas City, something like that? So what drove you to North Carolina versus another market?
Man, we must be on the same frequency. Actually, the one of the people I was mentioning earlier, she's actually in the Kansas City market. St. Louis, we wouldn't have chosen just because it's similar to Detroit.
Similar to Detroit.
Yep. But how did we choose? So actually, again, coming from surrounding yourself with the right people, you'll notice when you surround yourself with the right people, all of a sudden you got bigger and better problems. You have bigger and better discussions. You get bigger and better solutions, right? Because you're guys talking about something that actually matters. And just being surrounded, this comes from another mastermind that I'm in, where I'm not suggesting that anyone go out and do this, but basically you can have a data scientist study the entire United States, zip code by zip code, to see what the cash transactions look like, what's the median price per market, and basically kind of see what the growth. And you can look back the past year or 2 years, and that can kind of guide you. Okay, this market is taking off, and what have you. And stemming from one of those masterminds, it basically laid out several markets that were like on fire. Charlotte is one, Raleigh is another. I mean, Tampa, a lot of people know about Tampa. Houston is another. So it's a lot of different markets. And it's 280 or 262. I forget, one of the two. It's a lot of metropolitan markets in the United States. And basically, we paid for that data. And it was a data-driven decision to say, all right, well, we got all these different markets. Which one you want to go into? They're all basically the same. All right, I like Charlotte. I like Raleigh. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So let's take a quick break, hear a brief word from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk about these virtual markets and how you built out your team in these virtual markets. So we'll be right back. We'll hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll come back and we'll meet with Phil again.
PropStream is the industry's #1 tool for locating distressed properties and connecting with highly motivated sellers. With 100% coverage across the U.S., PropStream provides a deep dive into any property's specific details, making it easy to generate lists of distressed properties and contact to the owners. No other product or service can compare. Gain access to MLS property details like expired listings. You can pull accurate comps, even sale prices in non-disclosure states. This information is typically reserved for licensed real estate professionals, but is also available to you in PropStream. Gain access to unlimited nationwide property search, comparable home sales, targeted marketing lists, and owner contact lookup, built-in marketing tools, hundreds of filters to search and sort leads. Start your free 7-day trial now by going to proud.propstreampro.com/WeLoveEquity.
All right, we are back. We have Phil Blake from Detroit, who's doing multiple deals, doing tons of deals in multiple markets, i.e. Detroit, Raleigh, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm assuming that he's going to be expanding into other markets as well. So you guys better look out for Phil. He's quiet and low key, but he's doing things, guys. So you better beware. So Phil, we were talking about your virtual markets. How did you find and build your team in those virtual markets?
Excellent question. So that really comes from the model. So we are virtual. So earlier, when I was doing a lot of things myself, I was not virtual, right? I was going to properties or sending people to properties and things. So right now we're 100% virtual, right? Only time we'll go out in person to get a contract signed is if we really have to. But that is the one thing that made things a lot simpler. So the question is, how do we build out that team? Well, first and foremost, it makes hiring so much easier. When you don't have to have people in a certain office to work for you, now you can utilize talents from all over the United States. So that was a big part of it. Another big part of it, or to answer your question as far as how do we build out in Charlotte and Raleigh, very simple. You go to different Facebook groups, network, again, from being in these masterminds. I actually know quite a few people in those markets. So you just a quick phone call. Hey man, what are you doing for this? Do you got somebody to go to this property for me? Take pictures or whatever. So it gets to a point where it's really easy because your network is so large. You just make a few phone calls and your problem solved. Which I know that, a lot of people listening, that may not be the answer you want to hear. Like, oh man, tell me exactly. If you want tactical, if you got a deal, go on Facebook, and basically in one of the Facebook groups in that market, you can go in and say, hey, look, I got this deal. Like, matter of fact, you don't even have to do that. Just post on Facebook. Hey, anybody local to Raleigh or whatever this market is, want to make a quick $100, or do that on Craigslist, and you find people that will do that all day. Favors.com is another one. You can go there. People just do favors for whatever.
And like you said, it's utilizing the network, and that's what I tell people is, and I was one of those people. I'm gonna be completely transparent, Philip. I was one of those people like, I need to know you because I don't just get down with everybody like that. It was just one of those things like, man, I need to know you because you might try and go behind my back, so on and so forth. But once I started changing my mindset and being around higher level players and understanding that, there is a level of trust when you're working and you're and as you go up the ladder, so guys, don't be so fearful of this person still in my deal, so on and so forth. If you follow the blueprint, you have your contract, you have your memorandum in place, things like that, you really don't have to be so concerned about it.
One thing I would say on that point,
go ahead.
one thing on that same point, and I'm not saying this is best practice or probably far from it, but when you build certain relationships, like it's more so about the relationship continuing versus one deal making some money. We've actually had deals just recently where we sent a guy that we had co-wholesale on the deal at one point, and it worked out for us. But anyway, we had a relationship with him, and not a very strong relationship, but at least a strong enough professional relationship where it was a property that we wanted to get under contract, and the seller was just like, no way, I ain't signing anything over the phone, blah, blah, would you come see me and, talk to me, etc. Right? And he wouldn't sign the contract. And we actually had the deal sold before we locked it up. But anyway, that same relationship, we actually had him go to the property. We didn't even have a contract in place, but it was more so, hey, go to the property. Here's the situation, man. We trying to lock it up for this amount. You got to buy it at this amount. We'll just make it happen. Things went smoothly. So, and even my acquisitions guy talking to him about it. Again, it's about the relationship. Like, hey, yeah, I'm not trying to. This is what you guys got it at. This guy's what you guys sold it for. That's how we're gonna operate. You know what I mean? And you got to be careful with that. I'm not saying it's a best practice. Go out and just do that left and right, but because there's people that will steal your deal. There's people that will do that.
It is people out there that'll steal your deal, but you know what? When you're in the right circle of influence, like you said, it's the relationship is more important than closing this one transaction, because you think about it, you close this one transaction, it may be $15,000, $20,000. Let's just say $15,000, $20,000. But at the end of the day, you may burn that bridge. You may make that $20,000, but if you're dealing with a high level player that's closing 100 transactions a year, man, you'll make that $20,000 4 or 5 times over if you just stick and keep that relationship, together. I'll give you a quick example. I was doing a deal. The guy was based out of Jersey. He was out of Jersey City, and he was doing some deals here in Chicago, and got the buyer in place, everything like that. We got the deal closed, and he paid us directly from his entity because the title company was slow in doing a transaction. And he was like, man, look, you guys performed and did what I need you to do. I'm just going to go ahead and pay you, and I'll let the title company know, just to cancel the proceeds to us. Well, lo and behold, 3 weeks later, we still get a check from the title company. So we could have double dipped, took his money, plus took the money from the title company. Well, naturally, the relationship was more important. I picked up the phone and I gave him a call and I said, hey, look, you already paid me. The title company sent us a check on this. I wrote void on it, tore it up. Here's the picture, texted to him. And now we, that builds that stronger relationship, so
100%.
Yeah, when you have that mindset of relationship, over, the economics, you're going to always make that money, so
100%.
That's great. That's great. So Philip, we talked about, doing deals in your home market. We talked about virtual deals. Real briefly, let's touch on what you're pivoting and transitioning to, which is the commercial market. Why did that come about, and how are you doing this?
All right. So earlier I mentioned that I'd much rather do one deal and make a few $1 million, right? Because it's less work, right? So naturally, when you go into the commercial workspace, when you go into commercial markets and go into the commercial, you start to focus more so on commercial real estate. The deals are bigger, right? You got minimums of 50 grand on a deal. That's minimum, right? That you even want to look at if you wholesale it or what have you. And then you got the wealth building portion, which is it's a combination of those things. Definitely want to acquire units to be able to generate like massive wealth, and then be able to substantiate or have substantially more cash flow coming in from whether if we wholesale the apartment unit or some form of commercial real estate. The deals are bigger, and also forces growth. So why exactly are we doing it? So we're doing okay on the single family side, and some things we definitely need to tighten up. We were talking about it earlier as far as how we're going to make this work. Well, we've built the foundation, right? We got a lot of systems in place. We got a lot of foundational things in place, and we really need to clean up. So we were doing pretty well, and we like again, nothing's perfect, right? We still got. I mean, at one point, like I wasn't even 100% sure what our KPIs were, what they should have been, and so we were still making progress, right? So it was imperfect progress, but and now it's at the point where us taking that additional step is going to, number one, allow us to generate significantly more wealth, right? Not necessarily just making a lot of money, because a lot of people don't talk about wholesale. You pay a lot of money in taxes.
Yep.
Like, I mean, there's ways around it. Like, I mean, there's, talk to your CPA or whatever. But generally speaking, you got a cash heavy business. And you start making a lot of money in that. Yeah, IRS, Uncle Sam, that tax man,
come knocking at your door.
Yeah. So again, it's inefficient, right? Same reason it's inefficient to close 500 deals and make 10 million bucks versus closing 100 deals and get 10 million bucks.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's the inefficiency. So why I'm going to work so much harder, or have my team work so much harder, where we can generate wealth, and not just for myself, but for the team as well, to the point where we got checks coming in every month, and it's true wealth. So that's really the focus. That's the reason why we're transitioning. I wouldn't say transition. We're still going to wholesale. That's still a thing, but that's why we're making that focus on the commercial real estate.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So now, was there any fear transitioning from single family over to commercial? And what was that learning curve? How's that learning curve making that transition?
Awesome question. So number one, still learning. Number two, no fear for me, because again, I've experienced, right? So it's proven at this point. I already know the formula, and this is the formula you can teach your kids, anybody else. But again, you want to know something, you have somebody that's already doing what you want to do. Whatever your goals are, you find somebody that's doing significantly more, and you go pay them. So you talked about the mindset. That's what they don't teach you in school, and I got my own opinions about that. But it's they don't, like, you got to lead, you got to give. You can't come like people I know come to me asking me like, hey man, just tell me this. And sometimes I've actually made the mistake of trying to help them and they don't commit. So I've learned my lesson from that. But yeah, I don't really care if you know me. Like, actually, my buddy, I grew up with him since we were second or first grade. And again, making him pay me $15,000 for coaching that I really don't want to do. Like, it's for a year, and I really don't want to do it because I know the time commitment, and I want to. But I do want to see him grow. So that's why I was able to do that. But you gotta. The point I'm making is you gotta lead with what you can offer. You may not be able to offer much, but the last thing people want to do is have somebody come to them that is going to waste their time.
Yep.
Right. That's going to say, you're going to come ask me for this. I'm going to give you the game, or what I think is the game, and you're going to just not do it. You're
not do anything with it. And that's one of the reasons why you have that agreement with your buddy at $15,000, is not because you need to take the money from him,
right.
or none. That's not it. But it's saying, hey, I want to make sure you're seriously invested in this. And the only way you can make sure people are seriously invested is if they go in their pocket and they spend money on. People spend money on the things that they are trying to accomplish. So if you want to learn, guys, if you want to learn and see if this is somebody that you want to be a part of or affiliated with, watch how they spend their money. If they spend their money, on dumb stuff, rims, sounds, cars, they may have, a car that it's worth $60,000-$70,000, but they still rent, and that their money mentality is not where it needs to be. And if that's you need to start changing it. Start looking at ownership and start looking at what you're spending your time and your money in. So again, Phil, that $15,000 wasn't for you; it's for your buddy to say, hey, if you really want this education, then I need some buy-in to know that I'm not wasting my time with you.
100%. And I told him that. I was like, man, I don't want your money, really. I just told him, I was like, I know. I told him, I told him straight. I was like, look, man, I don't want you to be bullshit, man. I was like, because if you want me to help you, I'm going to be invested in you, and I actually want you to be successful. So if that's what you want to do, put up this money, and we show that put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, that's what I had to do. Just because I know you. Right, just because you know my first name, right? It's, you know what I mean. Don't mean anything. You still, I don't want you taking advantage of me, but I do want to be able to help you. So to answer your question, though, no fear, going to commercial, because I'm surrounded by the right people, and I know that method works. So I did the same thing I did 6-7 years ago. Found somebody that's crushing. This guy doing like 4,000 units, 300 million in total equity, but that's how much in total commercial real estate. You go to somebody that know, right? You learn from them, and then what happens? You go to them, and you get around other people that may not be doing 300 million, but they down 50 million, 10 million, 5, or whatever, and you learn from them. And that makes, so it's getting to a point. It's like, what I'm scared for. I'm learning from people that's already proven it. I just gotta implement. That's all I gotta do. If I can implement and get my things in order, like you want to say, yeah, go ahead.
Proximity is power, man. Proximity 100%. Is power. If you want to be around, and that's one of the things that I try and get people to understand is, you have to have a coach, you have to have a mentor. Anybody that's working and producing at a high level, they had to have a coach, they had to have a mentor. A.Rod, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, you can go down the list, Nikola Tesla. Everybody had a mentor that poured into them, and then they took what they learned and then they started pouring into somebody else. If you stay in that frame of mind where I'm just going to try and get without giving, you're just going to have a closed fist and nothing is going to be able to flow through there. And you're going to stay exactly where you're at. And that's what you could have did. You could have stayed with that same mentor, paying that little bit of money, saying, okay, this is fine. You know what? I'm making $50,000, $60,000 or $100,000 a year doing this. But no, you saw the opportunity saying, you know what? I can do more, I can do bigger, I can do greater. So let me go out here and spend the money to find a person that's going to pour into me so I can do more, bigger, and greater.
100%, man. And actually, one thing I wanted to say is, so horses for courses, like you mentioned earlier, it's all about being in the it's all about the context, right? You talked about, somebody, they got whatever, this car, or they spending money on things that depreciate or appear to appreciate. There's a time, when I say horses for courses, that means basically it's a time and place for everything. And I'm not saying splurge, but a lot of people like on IG, that's a big thing. Oh, this guy got the land, this guy got this, etc. But you have to ask yourself, how are these people paying for it? Like, I know guys that's on there that do a lot of like, they do that. That's how they influence people, which I 100% agree with, because people see that, I like the shiny object, and boom, I'm going to help you. I'm gonna dangle this sweet or this candy in front of you, but I'm gonna give you some broccoli with that as well. I'm gonna give you what you need, what's actually good for you. And I agree with that approach, because people are attracted to the cars and the women and things like that. But you have to ask yourself, like, a lot of the people that you see on there, some of them are like just putting on or whatever, but a lot of them, some that I know personally, the way that they're paying for it, that's the key. A lot of people, you work in a job, you trading your life for money, and then you in turn spending that money on a car. So you spending your life on a car and it's depreciated, say, et cetera, and you may not even be getting the money like that. Where these other guys that you want to be like he don't even work for it. Like okay, I got one of the rules to wealth is if you want to buy something like a liability, you got to find an asset to pay for it. Right. So I got something. Let me get this new land. It's probably costs a couple $1,000 a month. All right, sweet, or $2,500 a month, whatever it's going to be. All right, sweet. I got to go find an asset that's going to pay me extra $3,000 a month. And that's really, and man, and I'm like, man, the way you finesse the game, like right now, I don't want to go deep into it, but it's ways that people are finessing, like where you can we're actually paid to have the luxury items, the exotic items. You got the watches, you got the cars, and even from there's a way that you can structure your life in such a way where you can have everything that you want and an appearance is there, but you're not doing the financially irresponsible thing, right? It just, so you just live a life you want. Like, I mean, it's just a lot, man. It's a whole nother conversation. And I talk a lot about this to, just people that come from the hood, whatever, because, I mean, recently I got an M5. And so people see that, like, oh man, that's a nice car, blah, 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 what you doing? And I do that intentionally, right? Because I want them to ask and, to kind of spark them. I want them to look closer into it. But I'm giving them a game. Like, look, man, this is like, okay, all right, the car is 150 grand. You think it's like, all right, you think Phil just went and dropped 150,000 cash or blah, blah, blah. There's ways that, I could do a whole separate talk on how you can finesse the game. You can get the cars you want. You don't have to spend the money you want. You can actually turn them into assets if you want to. Same thing with your house. Same thing with people like watches. That's a big thing. The jewelry. There's a lot of different things that you can finesse the game. And people don't realize that. They just see somebody on IG driving a new Lamb and they got whatever, the bust down watch. So I just want I want to be like them. You know what I mean? All right, well, go ahead. They doing it in a smart way, most likely.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what
right.
I mean? Whereas you about to go spend, you making 100,000 a year trying to spend 200 on a car.
So what we're gonna do, Phil, is we're gonna have you back, and because I love having this conversation, man, because so many people are misinformed, and I want to make sure people get the right information at the right time so they can make it applicable to their lives. So I'm definitely gonna have you back so we can talk about that, because like you said, that's a whole nother conversation. People are looking at the glitz and glamour and not understanding how people are generating that wealth with that glitz and glamour, where the average person is out there driving a bus, trying to make $100,000 so they can go and buy a 740 or a S65 AMG, where there's a way that you can do it the right way without spending your life in order to do it. So Phil, let's start to wrap this up. We're going to go into our hot seat questions, man. We're going to put Philip Blake on the hot seat, man. Phil is on the hot seat. Phil, answer these questions for me, man. Starting over, what would you do differently?
I would start earlier. That's the first thing. I definitely like the mentorship. I would probably spend more on mentorship, and then I would take more massive action. As I mentioned earlier, school full-time, working full-time. So even though when I was taking massive action or taking action, I was still what you would call half-assing it, because I couldn't put all the time into it, right? So yep. I would go all in much sooner. I would start much sooner, and I would pay for more mentorship, 100%.
So this is on another note. You speak of mentorship, and let me know if you don't mind answering this. How much are you spending annually on mentorship, on coaching, so you can be a high-level producer?
Man, that's a good question. Probably somewhere between 60 and 100 a year.
Okay, you guys hear that? That's 60 to 100K a year in coaching, in education, in order for Phil to produce, these 100 units, 100 transactions a year. So I'm sure that 60 or 100 grand, you're making that in a month, maybe in 20 days. So guys, you got to elevate your mindset, please. Elevate your mindset. Don't shut down. Don't say, well, this guy is spending all of this money on education. Don't shut down. He's successful. Learn from the trail that he's already blazed, and get to where you need to go. Philip, what is one characteristic you believe every high producing investor should have?
Perseverance. 100%
perseverance.
And you got to be a little bit crazy, because people look at the odds. People look at the odds, like, and I don't like when people say it. Like, I actually got some buddies that still try to tell me this, but you look at the 1% or the 0.1%, the top of the 1%. Like, man, the chances of you being a billionaire and blah blah blah. And they look at the probability. My response to that was like, man, you got it all backwards. Like, okay, we saying 1% out of 99. Well, I'm gonna tell you this: 85 to 90% of that 99%, they not even trying, so they not even in the game, right? Yep. And then probably another 5 to 8% of people, these are just random numbers, but probably the majority of that remaining 9%, whatever, they want to do it on their own, or they're just going about it the incorrect way. You know what I mean? So they don't have to actually have the knowledge to be able to execute. So they may have an idea, or they may have a dream or something. So the way I look at it is like, I don't actually think it's that difficult. I think, again, there's certain principles that you got to be able to read books, man. Like Ray Dalio has an awesome book called Principles. I mean, it's a lot of different things out that you need to value, right? Instead of valuing the new shoes and things that people promote, value your library, because that's going to take you far, man. They say all of the mansions and the $1 million houses or whatever, they all have libraries. It's not because they're so rich that they have libraries. Maybe they're rich because they value the library in the first place.
There you go.
Chicken and the egg type of thing. But,
so my next
100% perseverance.
Yep. My next question was going to be, give me a good book recommendation, but you just gave one. Principles. Who was that by?
Ray Dalio. He's a billionaire hedge fund manager.
Okay.
What is it? Bridgewater? I think he manages Bridgewater
Capital. Okay.
Yeah. You can. It's to a point now. I don't even think they're even accepting any more money at this point. But he's he's been around for about 50 years, and he's given it again. The higher you go up, the more people want to help. He's like, look, I'm 70 plus. He's like, man, I'm at the giving stage. I just want to sit, chill with my grandkids, and I want to give away the game to whoever else actually actually, is worthy or, values it. And no, that's an awesome book.
All right, Phil, last question. In parting, what words of encouragement would you give a struggling investor?
Ooh, struggling investor. So that's actually a good question. It depends. Again, I talked about perseverance. You got to understand, man, that things are written in such a way. Like, you got to understand, this is going to be the part. Like, you want to look back on your life and like, damn, man, that's a good story. Like at this point, I feel like, man, I could probably write a book, and I probably will write a book. But I feel like you want to have climaxes, right? You go to watch a movie, it's not just like, oh, everything was peaches and cream and sunshine every day, and everything was just awesome, and that's the end of the movie. No, man, it was some. You had to, you your own hero, right, in your story. So you started from where you started from. You had to struggle through this. You had to deal with this, etc. You had to overcome these obstacles. And if you're struggling right now, that's just a part of it. I've already told you what you need to do. Now I will add this. Like if you don't have it in your pocket, I mean, you got to have it. Like, you got to be willing to do some things. So if you can't, like, all right, I'm going to go spend money on marketing, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. You may not be able to pay for mentorship. You talked about Mike Simmons. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know the story. If only if you talked about how Mike Copper started working for him, but he basically said, look, I'm going to come work for you for free, and only pay me. So how much you making per month? Are you making $100,000 a month? Only pay me on the above $100,000 that I bring in per month. It was something similar. I may not be exactly right, but he came in with leading with value. I see what you're doing. I want to learn. I want to work with you. And now they partners, 50-50 partners, 100%. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So you gotta take that approach. And if the way that the way society teaches us traditionally, you wouldn't think to do that. I'm not about to go work for nobody for free. I mean, you got all types of stuff. And that's just one story. I got another mentor said he showed up at a guy's office 17 times. The secretary wouldn't let him see the guy. Oh, get away, kid, get away, kid, get away. And he kept going back every day for 17 days to the point where the lady got tired of seeing him. She was like, man, look, go hide behind there. When he come out, the guy's going to go to the elevator. You got 30 seconds. Went from the elevator down. And that became his mentor. He's like, look, man, I work for you for free. I'll do whatever. So you got to have the right mindset. And the biggest way you can do that is watching podcasts like this, reading books, man, and just following those people that you who have what you desire.
There you go, guys. So you hear the game directly from Philip, who's a high producing wholesaler and real estate investor in the Detroit market. And you know what? I'm not just going to say Detroit. I'm going to say nationwide. So guys, take what he taught you, implement it, take all of the nuggets, because he gave tons of them today, and make them applicable in your life. That way you can get out there and take action. So Phil, in parting, man, how can we reach you? How can we find you? How can we get in touch with you? How can we follow your journey from where you are now to where you're transitioning to with the commercial units?
So awesome. So I'm I don't do a lot of social media, but just recently I started to pay more attention to it because I realized I want to be able to influence more people. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Philip_Blake_REI. I may actually change that soon. You can hit me up on Facebook, Blake, and that should come up. But reach out. Like, I actually enjoy helping people. I mean, most of the coaching that I do is within certain groups that have already kind of pre-filtered, because I realize, I know you got probably an awesome audience, but I know a portion of the audience is, I'm gonna keep it 100, man. It's probably the people that's just gonna listen and they're not gonna do anything.
Not gonna do anything.
And they, they want handouts and things like that. And I'm not knocking them. That's fine. That's what you want to do. And those are the people that I don't enjoy helping, right? But for the most part, if you're somebody like, man, I'm willing to do whatever. Like I've given away game for free to people that I thought deserve it. I've charged people for it. It's not something that I do regularly because now we're talking time commitments. But more recently, it's been something I've been more attuned to doing, as far as whatever you call it, mentorship, and just being able to help and give back. Because again, I know that there's more than enough. I mean, if you're in my same market, man, it's more than enough here. And this is just real estate in general. And honestly, I believe that the more people you help, not only is that, it just spreads that positive energy, right? So I want to be able to do that. So yeah, man. I mean, I can give you one of my phone numbers here. If people want to text me or whatever, just don't blow me up.
well, they'll probably blow you up. What I'll do, I'll get your number, Philip, and instead of us talking about it, For those who really want to reach out to Philip, we'll have that information in the show notes. So do a little digging. I'll probably hide it so you can get in there and try and find it. That way we can do a little pre-screening so you're not wasting this time. So guys, take this information, go out there, take action. Don't be like the people that we talked about that listen to all of these podcasts, read books and everything like that, and don't do anything with it, because the opportunity is definitely out there. So take this information, and what I want you to do is get out there and remember to always enjoy the journey. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you on next week. All right, guys, I was really, really happy and excited to talk to Philip, man, because I recently met him not too long ago, and just hearing his story and everything that he's doing, you know, in the Midwest was very, very inspirational. So remember, you got this content. Do what he said do, you know, take it, utilize it, use it, and get out there, change that mindset, and start taking action on some of the things that you want to do. Remember, you are empowered to do everything that your mind can fathom. So if you're thinking about an idea, stop thinking about A, B, C, and D. Start with A and just continue along that path. That's what I had to do. That's what so many people that are successful had to do. And you can be in that same group and start on that same path towards that trajectory of accomplishing everything that you set out to do. So this is Marcus Maloney, the Equity King. I'm signing off. Remember, go on the show notes, get all of the information that we talked about. We talked about the Memorandum of Agreement. I have a link below where you can get a free Memorandum of Agreement. Phil's contact information, reach out to that brother, man. He's doing some amazing things. I try and keep in contact with him a ton because he's inspiration to me, and he'll definitely be inspiration to you guys. So always remember, get out there and enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCSMaloney, Twitter at MRCSMaloney, and of course, IG at MRCSMaloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.